4 billion years ago, Earth was barren with no signs of life. On that day, a huge alien spacecraft landed on Earth's surface. They had a man drink a black liquid and then left Earth. Subsequently, the man's body decomposed, and his DNA recombined to become the origin of life on Earth. Billions of years passed, and early humans began to take shape. When the aliens visited Earth again, they found that early humans looked very similar to themselves, so they helped them develop civilization and displayed the location of their homeland on stone walls. By 2089, 2 archaeological doctors discovered that the coordinates on the murals actually existed, so they named the planet LV-233 and called the aliens engineers. In 2094, the Prometheus, funded by the Weyland Corporation, went to the planet LV-233, where they discovered a large spaceship left by the engineers and their secret weapon, the black liquid. This liquid was highly active. Once infected, a life form would mutate rapidly. However, the threat of the black liquid was far from over. When combined with different organisms, it would evolve into entirely different species. Human explorers were slaughtered by alien creatures, leaving only David, a synthetic human made by humans, who was fascinated by these creatures. Using the black liquid, he killed all the engineers and then studied the evolution of the aliens in seclusion on their home planet LV-426. By 2104, a ship carrying 2,000 colonists, the Covenant, passed by and discovered him. David used a ruse to successfully escape aboard the Covenant. 18 years later, after 2 failed attempts, the Weyland Corporation shifted its focus from space colonization to resource extraction. The scene shifts to space, where a cargo ship called the Nostromo, carrying 7 crew members and 20 million tons of ore, is on its way back home. Due to the long journey, all the crew members have entered hibernation. In this silent darkness, the central control system, Mother, suddenly receives a mysterious signal. According to regulations, whenever an abnormal signal is received, the crew must be awakened. Soon, all 7 crew members are awakened from hibernation, thinking they were about to reach Earth, so they sit together and discuss their shares. At that moment, the yellow light in the cabin lights up, indicating that Mother has detected an anomaly. The bearded man, the captain of this voyage, goes to the control room to receive the abnormal report. The other crew members also return to their stations, but soon discover a problem. The spaceship has not returned to Earth but has deviated from its original course. The bearded man explains that Mother has received an unidentified signal that repeats every 20 seconds and is very regular. Mother has the authority to approach the source of the signal after receiving it. At this point, a disagreement arises among the crew members. Led by the Old Black, the interest faction does not want to join in. They are a cargo ship, not a lifeboat, and there is no need to take risks. However, the bearded man cites the clauses in the contract, stating that when a regular communication signal is received, it may indicate the presence of intelligent life, and they must investigate, or else all remuneration will be deducted. Reluctantly, the Old Black agrees to proceed. By tracking the signal source, they discover that the signal is coming from a small asteroid with a diameter of 1,200 kilometers and a gravity 0.86 times that of Earth, where people can walk freely. In fact, this planet is the engineer's home planet LV-426. Although the crew is unaware of its past, after surveying the terrain, the 7 crew members land on the planet's surface in a small spacecraft, with the source of the signal located 2 kilometers to the northeast. 3 crew members volunteer, don their protective suits, and head for the destination. Before long, they discover a giant crescent-shaped spaceship, presumably the source of the signal. To investigate further, the 3 enter the spaceship, which has a very strange overall design, clearly not of Earth origin. They follow the corridor to the cockpit, where, to their disbelief, they find a giant alien corpse in the pilot's seat. Although it has been dead for a long time, it is clear that something has burst out of its chest. They then find a cave under the floor, where the temperature is much higher than outside. To gather more clues, crew member Kane uses a rope to descend to the bottom. The cave is large, with many egg-like containers placed around. He cautiously approaches and discovers that there seems to be a creature moving inside the eggs. At that moment, the egg opens like a flower petal, and before Kane can see what is happening, a facehugger suddenly jumps out and attaches to his oxygen mask. The other 2 crew members, hearing the noise, quickly bring him back to the medical room. The facehugger has already corroded the oxygen mask and firmly grasps Kane's face. But Kane is not dead. Instead, he breathes with the help of the facehugger. Ash tries to pull it off with tweezers, but when the facehugger is subjected to external force, its tail tightens around Kane's neck even more. With no other option, the crew members resort to a second method, cutting the limbs of the facehugger with a knife blade. But to their surprise, the The Facehugger's blood is highly corrosive, with just a few drops penetrating 2 layers of the ship's hull, meaning they cannot kill the alien on the spaceship. At night, the crew discovers a very strange phenomenon. The alien originally attached to Kane's face has mysteriously disappeared. This is a highly dangerous creature, and if it lurks within the spaceship, it could be very dangerous. So, the crew members start searching for it. Before long, they find the corpse of the Facehugger in a corner. Why would it suddenly die? Why is its blood so corrosive? This creature is full of unknowns, so Ash decides to bring it back to Earth for research. The bearded man orders an immediate return to the Nostromo, as he has had enough of this bizarre planet. The docking goes smoothly, and the Nostromo returns to its return orbit. Just as they are discussing how to deal with Kane, Kane miraculously wakes up. His mind seems fine, and his recent experiences feel like a dream. Seeing his condition, everyone relaxes and sits down to eat supper. Perhaps out of happiness or because they haven't eaten in a long time. Kane's appetite is especially good, but the next second, his expression suddenly twists, and then he collapses on the table, convulsing. The crew members quickly hold him down. He was fine just a moment ago. How could he suddenly become like this? But what surprises them is still to come. An alien creature the size of a fist bursts out of Kane's chest and, before anyone can react, it escapes from the room. Everyone is stunned by what they have just witnessed. Where did this creature come from? The old man, an expert in weaponry, quickly makes an electric shock gun and a tracker, then divides the team into 2 groups. If they spot the alien, they will throw it out of the spaceship. The old man, Ripley, and Old Black, armed with trackers, set out. They arrive at the storage room, and the tracker reacts, but when they open the storage cabinet, they find that their pet cat was hiding inside. To confirm whether it was the cat that triggered the tracker, Old Black asks the old man to bring the cat back. When someone acts alone, tragedy often begins. During the search for the cat, the old man finds a shed alien skin, meaning that the lurking alien is no longer the small creature it once was. Although the old man is completely unaware, just as he finds the cat, a monster larger than himself suddenly appears and drags him into the ventilation duct. Hearing the screams, the other 2 rush in, but only bloodstains remain at the scene. The crew does not know what species this is, but one thing is certain, it is very large. Conventional electric shock guns only enrage it, so the bearded man has Old Black make several flamethrowers. Creatures generally fear fire, and the space in the ventilation ducts is narrow. As long as they can pinpoint its location, they should be able to eliminate it. Next, the bearded man devises a battle plan. He has the crew members monitor the alien's position from the outside, while he enters the ventilation ducts with a flamethrower. However, the alien is much smarter than anticipated, constantly changing its position in the ducts, making it difficult to predict where it will emerge. At this point, the bearded man also realizes the danger, but it is too late to run. The alien suddenly appears behind him, and the bearded man's communication also disappears. Old Black takes a risk and searches the ducts, eventually finding only the flamethrower. Without even a drop of blood, from the original 7-member team, only 4 remain, and those who are mentally fragile have already started to break down. One wants to escape on a space shuttle, at least to avoid being eaten by the monster, but her proposal is opposed by Ripley. The space shuttle cannot accommodate 4 people, and even if they escape the monster, it is still uncertain whether they can survive in space. Ripley then goes to the control room, wanting to ask Mother for a better way, but when she raises the issue of the alien, Mother replies that only the scientist Ash can access the 937 Special Directive. Ripley then inputs Ash's identity code and asks what the 937 Special Directive is. Mother states that the primary task of the directive is to bring back alien life samples for research, and everything else can be abandoned, including the lives of the crew members. Ripley immediately understands that the change of course to LV-426 was all a conspiracy by the Weyland Corporation, aimed at bringing alien life forms back to Earth. At this moment, Ash suddenly appears beside Ripley. Since someone has discovered the secret, he cannot let her leave alive. Just as he prepares to kill Ripley, Old Black and Lambert arrive in time. During the struggle, Ash's head is chopped off, and only then do people realize that Ash is a synthetic human, which explains why he so strictly obeys orders. But they cannot kill Ash yet, as only he knows how to eliminate the alien. After a simple repair, Ash is reconnected. Ripley asks him what the alien's weakness is. There must be a way to kill it. Ash states, the alien is a perfect organic entity. Its structure and attack power are extraordinary, and you few people simply cannot survive. Ripley does not want to listen to his nonsense and pulls out his wires. The 3 are driven to desperation. a direct confrontation with the alien is definitely not going to work. So they decide to initiate the self-destruct program of the Nostromo and then escape on the space shuttle. It will take at least 10 months to return to Earth from here, and they must take enough cryogen to cope with the upcoming hibernation. The three act separately. Ripley goes to start the spaceship, while Old Black and Lambert go to get the cryogen. However, the two make too much noise and quickly attract the alien. At this moment, we finally see the full appearance of the monster. It is entirely black, with a scorpion-like long tail and a metallic hard shell, standing over 2 meters tall. Hearing the screams, Ripley quickly grabs her weapon to help, but along the way, the voices of the two stop abruptly. Clearly, Old Black and Lambert have been killed. Ripley does not dare delay and rushes to the control room to initiate the self-destruct program. In 10 minutes, the spaceship will explode. Ripley does not dare to return the same way and must sneak back to the space shuttle through the lower deck. But along the way, she discovers a surprising scene. The alien has built a nest in the lower deck, and all the missing crew members have been dragged here. The bearded man is barely alive and begs Ripley to kill him. Ripley cannot bear to see him suffer, so she takes up the flamethrower and burns the entire nest. Then, Ripley returns to the space shuttle, but to her surprise, the alien has ambushed the cockpit. At this moment, Ripley's last resort is to cancel the main ship's self-destruct system, then eject the space shuttle carrying the alien into space. The alien, after all, is an organic entity and cannot survive in space. But to her despair, 5 minutes after initiating the self-destruct program, the command cannot be withdrawn, and the Nostromo will self-destruct in 5 minutes. With no way out, Ripley returns to the space shuttle, and killing the alien is her only chance to survive. Fortunately, the alien is not in the cockpit. Perhaps it went back to the main ship to look for the protagonist. For Ripley, this is a rare opportunity, so she starts the shuttle and detaches from the Nostromo. With an explosion, the Nostromo is blown into cosmic dust, and Ripley's hanging heart finally settles down. But just as she changes her clothes and prepares to enter hibernation, an alien arm suddenly reaches out in front of her. It turns out that the alien did not return to the Nostromo but was hiding in the ducts of the pipeline. Taking advantage of it not being fully emerged, Ripley hides in a corner and quietly puts on a spacesuit. She seems to have a way to deal with the alien. After everything is ready, Ripley goes to the driver's seat and then ties the safety belt to herself. She hopes to use the suction created by opening the hatch to suck the alien into space. Just as the monster pounces on her, Ripley decisively opens the hatch. However, the alien uses its strong arms to grasp the sides of the hatch. Ripley does not give it any chance and takes up the harpoon gun to shoot it into space. Approaching, Ripley starts the spaceship engine and blasts the alien into the depths of space. The battle finally ends with a human victory. Before entering hibernation, Ripley records an audio report detailing the sacrifice of the crew members and the destruction of the Nostromo, hoping that when people receive the report, they can bring her back to Earth. In 2122, the mining ship Nostromo received a mysterious signal while passing by the planet LV-426. Out of curiosity, the crew changed course to explore the planet, only to find no intelligent life but a monster born for killing, the alien. Within 24 hours, 6 of the 7 crew members were killed, with only the protagonist, Ripley, escaping aboard a small spacecraft. She entered a cryosleep chamber, hoping to be discovered by humans when she reached the solar system. But her nightmare was just beginning. The year came to 2179, 57 years after the Nostromo incident. Humans found a small spacecraft passing through the core systems and opened the hatch to find the survivor Ripley, still preserving her appearance from years ago due to the long cryosleep. A few days later, Ripley gradually recovered, but the events of 57 years ago still seemed like yesterday. Every time she slept, the terrifying image of the alien appeared before her eyes. One day, a researcher named Burke approached her. Ripley had previously entrusted him to find her daughter's whereabouts after so many years. However, Burke brought bad news. Ripley's daughter had died 2 years ago at the age of 66. Ripley, looking at her daughter's photo, felt a mix of emotions. She had once promised to return home for her daughter's birthday, but now it seemed all was in vain. That afternoon, Ripley reported her ordeal to the Weyland Corporation. She discovered an alien species on LV-426 that killed all her crewmates, and she barely escaped. According to her crewmate, there were thousands of alien eggs on the planet. If these reached Earth, humanity would be completely wiped out. However, the leadership did not believe her. LV-426 had been mined for over 20 years, with 80 families living there, and there had never been any reports of alien creatures. Ripley had been in cryosleep in space for 57 years. They speculated she might be mentally disturbed or her memories confused. Ultimately, Ripley's pilot license was revoked. and she was required to undergo 6 months of psychiatric observation in an asylum. The scene shifts to planet LV-426. Following company orders, a family of 4, including a little girl named Newt, went to explore an unknown area. During their search, they found a huge crescent-shaped spaceship nearby, a significant discovery. Newt's parents went to the ship alone, but shortly afterward, Newt's mother escaped, dragging her husband along. She repeatedly called headquarters using the vehicle's radio because a facehugger had latched onto her husband's face. 2 weeks later, Burke, accompanied by a Marine lieutenant, visited Ripley. They had just lost contact with LV-426. Although the exact reason for the loss was unclear, it might have been an alien attack as Ripley had described. Therefore, Burke invited Ripley to serve as a consultant on the rescue mission, as she was the only one familiar with the creature. After several months of cryosleep, Ripley, Burke, and the lieutenant led a Marine detachment to LV-426. During a meal, Ripley noticed a synthetic person named Bishop in the team. A synthetic had betrayed her team 57 years ago, which deeply ingrained her distrust for synthetics. However, in current society, it was standard for synthetics to participate in space missions, and they were equipped with behavior controllers that prevented them from harming humans. Nonetheless, Ripley remained distrustful. Before landing, Ripley briefed the soldiers about the alien. Its speed and strength were extraordinary, and a single creature had nearly wiped out her entire squad. She hoped they would take the mission seriously. These veterans, however, were not intimidated by mere alien creatures, not even alien bugs. Ripley hoped the problem on LV-426 was just a communication issue and not an actual alien threat. Soon, the team was armed and then landed on the planet's surface. Over the years, people had built many air processors on LV-426, and the planet's atmosphere was now breathable for humans. The colony appeared undamaged from the outside, with even the electricity running normally, but the entire building was eerily quiet. A 6-person special ops team entered the base fully armed, while others stayed in armored vehicles to remotely command their movements. The scene inside the base was a stark contrast to the outside. Signs of struggle were everywhere. Yet strangely, no bodies were found. The soldiers used motion detectors to search for survivors but found none. Instead, they discovered that the floor had suffered varying degrees of corrosion. Ripley immediately understood, the alien's blood was highly corrosive, and it must have attacked the colony. Whatever had happened, the interior seemed safe for now, so Ripley and her group entered. They found many doors and windows welded shut and the elevator blocked with heavy equipment, as if to prevent something from entering, but their blockade had failed. The group eventually reached the lab, where many facehugger specimens were stored in cultivation tanks, 2 of which were still alive. Bishop examined the work records on the table. These facehuggers had been forcibly cut from people's faces, and those who had been parasitized had died on the operating tables. As they discussed this, a life signal suddenly appeared on the detector, moving rapidly toward them. The group's first thought was that a monster was approaching, so they readied their weapons and entered alert mode. Soon, the creature indicated by the signal flashed before them, and they realized it was just a frightened little girl. Ripley followed her into a dilapidated workshop. No one knew what she had been through or how she had survived. Ripley just held her in her arms, trying her best to comfort her. The girl's name was Newt, and she was likely the only survivor in the base. However, no matter how people questioned her, she remained silent. Ripley could tell she was terrified. Meanwhile, technicians had discovered where people were. Everyone working here had a tracking chip implanted in their body, and as long as they were within the tracking range, their location could be found. According to the monitor, they were all concentrated on the 3rd sublevel. Perhaps they had deliberately gone there to avoid the monsters. The group didn't delay and drove the armored vehicle to their destination. The same plan was followed. The combat team entered the 3rd sublevel while others stayed in the armored vehicle to command the operation. The temperature on the 3rd sublevel was very high, and the walls were covered with a biological secretion that resembled a giant nest. The soldiers quickly reached the target area, but to their surprise, there were no living people there. They were stuck to the walls like prey, and the floor was littered with empty alien eggs and shed facehugger skins. At that moment, a team member spotted another survivor nearby, but the next second, a chestburster emerged from his body. The soldiers quickly used flamethrowers to kill him, but this action woke the sleeping aliens before they could react. 4 soldiers were killed by the aliens' claws, and the others picked up their weapons to fight back. However, there were too many monsters, and the situation quickly spiraled out of control. Ripley knew that if she didn't do something, the combat team would be wiped out. Ignoring the danger, she drove the armored vehicle in, but ultimately, only 2 or 3 soldiers were rescued. The situation was now very clear. All the colonists had been killed. They had been parasitized by facehuggers, giving birth to hundreds of aliens. Ripley immediately contacted the transport ship to come and pick them up. But to everyone's surprise, an alien had stowed away on the transport ship, attacked the pilot, and the ship crashed before their eyes. Now completely desperate, with no transport ship meaning no return to the main ship and hundreds of aliens in the nest, it seemed there was no chance of winning this battle. After returning to the base, the soldiers took inventory of their weapons. They had several pulse rifles, 15 grenades, and 4 automated sentry guns. The sentry guns were highly efficient at auto-targeting and reloading, but even so, surviving the night seemed difficult. With only a few hours until nightfall, when the creatures would swarm out, the soldiers set up the sentry guns in 2 narrow tunnels, ideal for sniping targets. Other entrances were securely welded shut with heavy objects. This was all the effort they could muster. Afterwards, Ripley placed Newt in the medical room. Losing her daughter had been a lifelong regret for Ripley, and Newt's presence inevitably evoked her maternal instincts. Regardless of anything else, she had to ensure Newt's safety. During their time back at the base, Bishop had been studying the facehuggers. Since these creatures hatched from eggs, there must be a queen-like creature reproducing somewhere on the planet. Ripley didn't care about these details. She instructed Bishop to destroy all samples after his research, but Bishop refused because Burke had ordered him to bring back 2 facehugger specimens. As a synthetic, he only obeyed orders. Ripley, furious, confronted Burke. She had already seen the mission log. It was Burke who had ordered Newt's family to investigate the unknown area. The tragedy of the 80 families in the base was all Burke's conspiracy, just to find the alien creatures and bring them back for research. As they talked, the base's alarms suddenly went off. The aliens had breached the tunnels, although they couldn't see how many there were. The 500 rounds in the sentry guns were quickly depleted, indicating a massive number. Then, another piece of bad news came from Bishop. The recent crash of the transport ship had damaged the base's reactor. In 4 hours, the reactor would explode with the force of 4 billion tons of TNT. At that point, they wouldn't need the aliens to finish them off. They would be reduced to cosmic dust. At that moment, one of the soldiers thought of a plan. There was an air control tower nearby. They could use it to remotely arrange for a transport ship from the main ship, but someone had to go there to operate it manually. Bishop volunteered. As a synthetic, he would not likely trigger the aliens' alert. It would take about 3 hours from connecting the signal to the transport ship landing. They had to find a way to survive that long. But just as Bishop left, another tunnel's sentry gun was activated. Watching the ammunition quickly deplete, everyone started to panic. Just when they were at their most tense, the monsters suddenly stopped their attack. It seemed they had given up on the concentrated fire and were looking for other passages. Ripley had not rested for over 24 hours. Taking advantage of this break, she went to the medical room and fell asleep holding Newt. Before long, Ripley was awakened by a noise. She saw 2 empty cultivation tanks shaking on the floor. Her first reaction was that the facehuggers had escaped from them, so she woke Newt, intending to flee the room. But as they got up, a facehugger pounced at them. Fortunately, Ripley reacted quickly and pressed it under the bed, but this was only a temporary solution. Moreover, the location of the other facehugger was still unknown. Worse still, the door was locked. Ripley clearly had brought weapons into the room, but now the weapons were taken outside the door. Clearly, someone was deliberately setting them up. The 2 screamed at the camera, hoping someone would notice their plight. Burke indeed saw this scene, but he turned off the monitor instead of reporting it. It was obvious this was all Burke's doing. Waiting any longer would only lead to death. So Ripley, thinking quickly, took out a lighter and triggered the room's fire alarm system. This action indeed caught the attention of the team. When they arrived at the medical room, the 2 facehuggers were about to succeed. Without a second thought, they broke the glass and killed both facehuggers. Ripley had already guessed who was behind this: Burke. He wanted an alien to parasitize inside her and then bring her back to Earth in a state of cryosleep, thus safely transporting the alien back. As they talked, the base's power was suddenly cut off. The intelligence of these creatures far exceeded their understanding. They hurriedly took out detectors to track the aliens' movements. But to their surprise, although the base entrance was locked, the detector showed that the aliens had already entered the room. Their first thought was that there must be an entrance they had overlooked, and the aliens had found it. At that moment, noise suddenly came from the ventilation ducts. The soldiers looked up cautiously and saw that the aliens had reached their heads. The group had snuck in through the ventilation ducts. Everyone immediately picked up their weapons to fight back, but the number of opponents was overwhelming. They could only retreat while fighting. During this, Burke was killed by an alien, and more of the special ops team died. Continuing this way, annihilation was only a matter of time. The commander urgently contacted Bishop to ask how much longer he needed. Bishop reported that the transport ship would land in 16 minutes. They had to hurry over immediately. By then, only the commander, Ripley, and Newt were left in the team. They just needed to pass through a vent ahead to reach their destination. However, Newt, being small, fell into the sewer, and the commander immediately took out tools to cut the floor. But he was a step too late. Newt had been abducted by an alien, and the commander was seriously injured during the struggle. There was no choice. Newt could only send the commander to the transport ship first. With 26 minutes left until the reactor exploded, Ripley told Bishop to wait for her return before leaving, then took her weapons and went back inside the base. Because Newt had a tracker on her, Ripley quickly found her location. At that moment, a facehugger was about to parasitize Newt, but Ripley, quick on the draw, shot the facehugger dead. Then, she picked up Newt and ran to the exit. By mistake, Ripley entered a huge nest, and as she had guessed, an alien queen, several times larger than the other creatures, was laying eggs there. When the queen realized someone had intruded, her two personal guards began to approach Ripley. Knowing their weakness, Ripley aimed her flamethrower at the alien eggs, seemingly warning the queen not to make any sudden moves. Sure enough, the alien queen immediately signaled her guards to back off. Ripley carefully walked to the exit, and once she was sure she was in a safe range, she turned on the firepower and destroyed the entire nest. But the alien queen was not so easily killed. It forcibly separated from the ovary and escaped from the nest. With less than 4 minutes left until the explosion, Ripley successfully escaped to the rendezvous point with Newt, but Bishop did not show up on time. Ripley shouted angrily, frustrated that she had been deceived by a synthetic yet again. Moreover, an elevator nearby suddenly started moving up, indicating that the alien queen had followed them. Just when all seemed lost, Bishop, piloting the transport ship, suddenly appeared beside them. They didn't dare delay, jumped onto the transport ship, and escaped. Subsequently, the reactor exploded, and the base instantly disappeared from the planet. Back on the main ship, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Just when Ripley was expressing her gratitude to Bishop, the alien queen suddenly appeared and tore Bishop in half. It turned out that in the last moment before the transport ship left the planet, the alien queen had also jumped aboard. With the commander seriously injured, Bishop torn in half, and Newt powerless, the task of confronting the alien queen fell entirely on Ripley. But she did not back down. Instead, she drove a mechanical loader to face the alien queen head-on. Ripley had a level 2 driving license, and the loader was as agile as a part of her body. However, despite this, she was still no match for the queen in terms of strength. Out of options, Ripley resorted to the old method. She opened the hatch, using the massive suction created by depressurization to suck the alien queen into space. This method proved effective. Ripley pressed the loader onto the alien queen, then opened the hatch. The weight of the queen, combined with the pressure from the loader, instantly sucked it into space. Ripley then used the ladder to escape. The 3 survivors entered cryosleep. They had just entered cryosleep when noises in the ship indicated that a facehugger was present. At the start of the film, the facehugger attacks the survivors, damages the sleep pods, causing a fire in the cryochamber, and the central control system immediately initiates an escape procedure, ejecting the escape pod, which happens to crash on the Goddess of Vengeance. Although the name sounds elegant, it is in fact a supermax prison with the highest level of security, imprisoning the most vicious and evil individuals in the world. Anyone picked randomly could be charged with multiple crimes. There are no cells or guards in this prison. Survival is entirely dependent on one's own abilities. Originally, there were 5,000 men imprisoned here, but now only 25 remain. Clemens, the only doctor in the prison, discovers the escape pod and the barely alive Ripley, whom he immediately takes back to base and instructs his colleagues to check the ship for other survivors. However, the news is not optimistic. Except for Ripley, everyone else died, including the 10-year-old girl, Newt. The prison warden quickly reports the find to the Weyland Corporation, and the company instructs him to do everything possible to save Ripley, with a rescue team scheduled to arrive in a week. On this planet, enveloped in darkness and silence, the sight of a woman could inevitably stir sinful thoughts. So the warden instructs the doctor to tell Ripley to stay in the medical room until the rescue team arrives. After receiving meticulous care from the doctor, Ripley soon wakes up. She learns from the doctor about the crash of the escape pod, which under normal circumstances, would not have ejected so easily. She needs to clarify the cause of the accident. The wreckage of the escape pod has been salvaged, and according to the doctor, the little girl drowned in the cryochamber. But Ripley feels that the situation is not so simple, because she discovers signs of corrosion on Newt's cryopod. a kind of corrosion that only alien blood could cause. Could it be that the alien attacked the spaceship? Later, they go to the morgue, where the girl's body shows no external signs of anomalies. But Ripley insists on performing an autopsy because she fears that the alien might have laid eggs inside the girl, although the doctor doesn't understand her reasons. Since she insists so firmly, he complies. The girl's chest and abdominal cavities are very clean, showing no signs of infection. But Ripley still does not give up. They must cremate the girl's body as soon as possible. The doctor is not foolish. From Ripley's reaction, it is clear that she is looking for something. Since she refuses to say, he does not continue to ask. The Goddess of Vengeance planet was once a mine, and there is a huge furnace in the middle of the base. The warden gathers everyone here, and in their prayers, they cremate the girl's body. On the other side, 2 men lift a dead cow to the slaughterhouse, then hurry to attend the cremation ceremony. However, before they leave, they discover the corpse of a facehugger on the transport vehicle. The 2 men have never seen such a creature and thus do not pay much attention to it. Shortly after their departure, an alien bursts from the cow's carcass. Initially, people use the cow to pull the escape pod back, and the facehugger must have attached to the cow during that time. In the evening, Ripley goes to the dining hall to eat. This action infuriates the warden, who had warned Ripley not to appear in front of people. But now whatever he says is too late, as unrest has already begun among the inmates. After dinner, Ripley chats with the doctor, who is curious about the events of the day, wanting to know what exactly Ripley was looking for on the girl. Ripley doesn't answer him but shifts the topic to relationships between men and women, perhaps seeking support or genuinely having feelings for the doctor, and they become involved that night. Meanwhile, a man cleaning the pipes accidentally finds a piece of skin shed by some creature. Just as he is mesmerized by it, an alien hiding at the bottom of the pipe suddenly sprays him with a stream of acid. The man loses his balance and falls into a huge fan nearby, instantly turning into minced meat. The next day, the doctor receives a notification and rushes to the scene. Everyone thinks it was an accident, as more than one person has nearly fallen into the fan before. But the doctor finds something else. There is a corroded spot in the pipe, similar to the scene he saw in the escape pod yesterday. He finds Ripley to inquire about these marks. Before they can understand the whole story, Ripley retrieves the flight recorder from the escape pod, hoping to restore the course of events from the information inside. But she needs a computer with voice capabilities to decode the content in the recorder. The equipment in the prison is very primitive, and Ripley's only hope is to find Bishop's remains, using his voice function to help her translate. The doctor originally wanted to accompany her, but the warden called him away at the last moment. The company had just issued new instructions, placing Ripley's protection as the highest priority. The warden warns the doctor not to let Ripley wander around. Otherwise, if something goes wrong, no one could answer for it. Meanwhile, Ripley finds Bishop's remains in a junkyard, but just as she is about to leave, a group of men suddenly appears and surrounds her. Just as they prepare to vent their animalistic desires, Dylan arrives in time and beats these men severely. Dylan is the spiritual leader of the prison, and he does not allow such behaviors. The scene shifts to the underground tunnels, where 3 inmates are conducting routine checks. Accidentally, they discover that a candle deep in the tunnel has been extinguished. Thinking it is someone's prank, they proceed with torches to investigate. As expected, the 3 men are attacked by an alien, and only Greg, one of them, survives. Greg is a severe mental patient, and when people see him covered in blood, they think he has killed his teammates. But Greg claims that what attacked them was a dragon. At this time, Ripley connects the flight recorder to Bishop's brain, which regains brief consciousness after being powered up. From the information in the recorder, it is clear that it was the alien's corrosive blood that caused the fire in the cryochamber. Ripley asks him whether the alien stayed on the main ship or crashed with them. Bishop indicates that the alien has been with them all along, and all the events on the ship were entered into the computer and sent back to the Weyland Corporation. After everything is clarified, Ripley finds the warden and tells him all the causes and consequences. It is a bloodthirsty monster. Its only purpose is to kill. Ripley's words do not make the warden take her seriously. Although this is a high-security prison, they are unarmed and unable to contend with such a creature. Now, the only thing to do is to wait for the rescue team to arrive and then use their weapons to eliminate the alien. Then, Ripley is locked in the medical room, and the idle doctor accompanies her to chat. Just at this moment, the alien suddenly appears and kills the doctor. Ripley is also cornered by the monster, but unexpectedly, the alien does not harm her. Now, it is dinner time. The narrowly escaped Ripley hurries to the cafeteria. But before she can explain the course of events, the alien suddenly appears and drags the warden away. Everyone present sees this scene, and without needing much explanation, they realize the existence of the monster. With the warden and doctor both dead, the people fall into a leaderless state. At this time, everyone starts to elect Ripley as the commander because only she understands the alien. Without weapons, people can only take advantage of the terrain. After some searching, they discover a warehouse for storing nuclear waste. The warehouse has only one exit, and the iron door alone is 2 meters thick. If they can lure the monster inside, it absolutely cannot escape. To achieve this, people start to smear paint in various passages, a highly flammable material. They plan to use an explosion to drive the alien into the warehouse. People here usually have the habit of smoking, and they do not make an exception even while working. Just as a member had just lit a cigarette, the alien suddenly appeared and attacked him. The cigarette fell on the paint, causing a chain reaction. Many people had not yet managed to evacuate and were buried in the fire. To avoid the explosion, both people and the alien all came to the warehouse door. If the alien launches an attack, it is very likely that everyone will be annihilated. At this time, a man yells to attract the alien into the warehouse, and Ripley quickly closes the door. Listening to the painful screams from inside the warehouse, everyone's mood is extremely heavy. At this moment, they are no longer criminals, but comrades in arms fighting side by side. After the disaster passes, everything returns to calm. Only Greg is still tightly bound in the room, begging his teammates, since the monster has been captured, proving that those 2 people were not killed by him, can he be released? His teammates think it over and agree that Greg has a point, but just as he unties Greg's ropes, he is knocked unconscious by Greg. Then, Greg goes to the warehouse door. He kills the guard with a knife and then opens the warehouse door. Greg is a severe mental patient, and in his eyes, the alien is not a monster but a dragon that can answer questions. As expected, Greg is killed as soon as he walks in, and the alien escapes from the warehouse. On the other side, Ripley reports the progress of the events to the Weyland Corporation, but the company's response is that they do not allow the killing of the alien. Everything should wait until the rescue team arrives. Actually, Ripley had already guessed that the company would say this. Their purpose is to bring the alien back for research. Just at this time, people discover that the alien has escaped. Everyone starts to panic. They had sacrificed more than half of their lives to capture it, but now it has been easily released by Greg. People begin to focus their attention on Ripley, asking her what the next step is. But Ripley's complexion is very poor. Recently, she has always felt that something is wrong with her body, but she cannot say exactly what is not right. Thus, she goes to the escape pod and uses the equipment inside to scan her body. However, the scan results shock her. It turns out that there is also an alien inside Ripley's body, and from its form, it is very likely an alien queen. Ripley finally understands why the alien did not harm her. Because her body is nurturing a new queen, Ripley tells this to Dylan, asking him to kill her, because once the alien queen is born, the entire world will be devastated. Dylan says that he will kill Ripley, but now is not the time. They must first eliminate the one that is still alive. Then, Dylan gathers the survivors in the hall, asking them to assist him in eliminating the alien. But the morale of the people is not high. The rescue team will arrive in 2 hours, and even if they need to charge into battle, they should at least have weapons. Ripley says, the company will never kill the alien. On the contrary, they might even kill you to silence you. When the alien first appeared, the company could abandon the crew members, and the Marine Corps sent the second time could also be sacrificed. In the eyes of the company, you death row inmates are even less valuable. Rather than kneeling and begging for mercy later, it is better to stand up and resist now. Everyone is inspired by Ripley's fighting spirit, and they join her side. There is a foundry in the base, and inside there are many large molds. If they can lure the alien into the mold and then pour scalding hot lead into it, they can kill it. The entire foundry is complex, with hundreds of pneumatic doors. They must lure the alien to the main conduit and then use the piston in the main conduit to push it into the mold. The so-called lure is to use people to attract the alien, a task with an imaginable level of danger. In addition, these pneumatic doors have not been started in 6 or 7 years, and some of them have already started to jam. What was originally a plan to capture the alien ultimately transformed into a large-scale alien hunting scene. Fortunately, the sacrifices of the teammates were not in vain. Ripley and Dylan successfully lure the alien into the mold. According to the plan, before the hot lead is poured, the two have a few seconds to escape. But they overlooked one point: the alien will not obediently stay there waiting to die. To hold it back, Dylan chooses to sacrifice himself, and with the activation of the mechanism, both he and the alien are submerged in the scalding hot lead. Before people can rejoice, the alien suddenly jumps out of the mold. Its body structure has already far exceeded human understanding, and the hot lead simply cannot harm it. At that moment, a teammate has a good idea. the alien's body must be extremely hot now, and if they pour water on it, they should be able to eliminate it. Ripley seems to realize this as well, and she pulls the switch of the sprinkler. The scorching body comes into contact with the cold water, causing the alien to instantly explode. After the fierce battle, Ripley is physically and mentally exhausted, and before she has time to catch her breath, the Weyland Corporation's rescue team arrives. The person leading them looks exactly like Bishop, and she thought he was a synthetic like Bishop. But the man says that he is human and that Bishop was created by him. They have brought the best doctors, who can separate the alien from Ripley's body, and he promises not to bring the alien back to Earth. But Ripley does not believe him. If the alien queen is born, the consequences are unimaginable. Rather than dying from the monster bursting out of her chest, she prefers to end it herself. Ripley leaps into the furnace, and the alien disappears from this world forever. However, humanity never ceased its search until one day, they discovered a pool of blood containing DNA from both Ripley and the alien queen. After numerous experiments, people finally cloned Ripley, who carried the alien queen. Due to the fusion of human DNA, the alien queen acquired a new ability, viviparity, meaning the aliens could bypass the Facehugger stage and directly birth fully developed forms. Faced with an even more perfect alien queen, where does humanity's hope lie? A series of critical decision-making errors led to the effective dissolution of the Weyland Corporation, replaced by United Military Systems, a biotech company under Walmart, which acquired 60% of Weyland-Yutani's shares and its core divisions, becoming the new tech leader. In space, a spaceship from United Military Systems heads towards its destination, a large military medical laboratory. The ship carries 42 soldiers and 7 scientists, who, using the blood samples collected by Weyland-Yutani, successfully clone Ripley, including the alien queen inside her. Once the specimen was formed, Ryan couldn't wait to extract the alien queen from Ripley. Ryan is the chief scientist at United Military Systems and the proponent of the cloning project. The scene shifts, and Ripley wakes from her coma. Her incision is sutured, and a number 8 is etched on her arm, indicating she is the 8th test subject, presumably after the failure of the previous 7. From the company's perspective, Ripley 8 is merely a host, and after birthing the alien queen, she would be useless. However, her awakening surprises the scientists as she retains some of her previous memories and possesses incredible strength. Experts explain that Ripley 8 has fused human and alien DNA, possibly a result of the genetic interplay. This unique test subject draws intense interest, prompting the decision to keep her. Days later, the alien queen nears its full form, ready to lay eggs at any moment. That day, a smuggling ship called the Betty arrives at the United Military Systems mothership, with its 6 experienced mercenary crew members who work for money. The captain, Elgin, approaches the United Military Systems commander. The commander had ordered some goods from them, though for unknown purposes, as normally, such medical labs wouldn't operate outside controlled areas. The commander warns him to mind his own business. For the next 2 days, they are free to rest but must avoid the restricted areas. The mercenaries deliver the goods to the lab, which turns out to be several adult men intended as hosts for alien incubation. When the staff receive the goods, they immediately place them with the alien eggs, and within hours, the aliens reach their full form. Among the mercenaries is a woman named Call, who has different motives from the others. Upon hearing Ripley's name, she sneaks into Ripley's cell, intending to kill her with a dagger, aiming to prevent United Military Systems from gaining the alien. However, seeing the incision on Ripley's chest, she realizes the alien queen has already been extracted. She begs Ripley to join her in stopping the company's conspiracy. Ripley doesn't respond but stabs her own palm with the dagger. Her blood instantly corrodes the dagger. Technically, Ripley is not human but an experimental subject fused with alien DNA, and it's unclear whose side she's on. Unable to persuade her, Call leaves but is soon caught by the guards after leaving the detention area. The commander had warned against approaching restricted areas, clearly indicating she's a spy. The guards gather all the mercenaries, intending to eliminate them as terrorists, but they underestimate the mercenaries' combat abilities. After a skirmish, all the guards are killed. Amidst the chaos, the caged aliens decide to kill one of their own and use its blood to corrode the floor, escaping their cages shortly after. The staff, seeing this, urgently sound the alarm, but the aliens invade so swiftly that despite immediate evacuation, over half the people die from their fangs and claws. Now, only Ripley, Ryan, and 6 mercenaries remain. Call informs her teammates about the horrors of the alien, but without proof, they can't comprehend the creature's danger. During evacuation, Elgin stumbles upon a weapon left by a fleeing crew member. covered in slime, indicating an alien's presence, which he fails to realize. As he picks up the weapon, an alien suddenly attacks him from below. The rest rush over upon hearing the noise but arrive too late. Elgin is already dead. Before they can react, an alien appears, blocking their escape with an iron door, trapping them. At this moment, Elgin's body moves slightly. The alien, thinking he's not dead, examines him closely, but just then, a gun emerges from the body and kills it. The rescuer is Ripley, who ultimately decides to stand with humanity, having witnessed the alien's terror. The group panics. They question Dr. Ryan on how many aliens have been hatched. He answers 12, a number enough to annihilate them several times over. They must unite to survive. Their goal is the Betty, parked at the stern, but reaching it involves crossing the entire ship, fraught with danger. As they make their way, Ripley stumbles upon a lab marked 1 to 7. As subject number 8, she knows what's inside. Opening the door, she finds jars containing 6 deformed failures and, shockingly, the still-living subject 7, connected to life support and in great pain, unable to bear it. Ripley, sharing their genetic code, takes a flamethrower and ends her suffering. Then, they find a room with several male bodies. The mercenaries delivered goods, now burst open by the aliens. In a corner, they discover a man with glasses, the group's survivor. Ripley, with her alien-fused genes, senses an alien inside him. Knowing his chest will burst eventually, although they consider abandoning him, they decide to save him, given the available technology to separate the alien, potentially sparing his life. They quickly reach the cooling tower, which leads to the ship's top and an elevator directly to the Betty. However, the cooling slot's water valve has been opened, flooding the passageway. They must swim through, a manageable 30 meters for the group. Under time pressure, they dive in, navigating the eerily quiet waters, alert to their surroundings. Suddenly, a man with a scar spots 2 aliens approaching. He kills one with his weapon, but the other gets close. Their first instinct is to flee, yet the last member is captured by the alien. The rest escape to the exit, only to find another dilemma. The alien has built a nest around the exit, filled with eggs, trapped between being parasitized by facehuggers or killed by aliens. A team member spots a reflective panel above the exit and fires 2 shells. Reflecting off the panel, the shells explode on the alien eggs, incinerating the facehuggers, allowing their escape from the water. The exit is high up, and they must climb quickly. Dr. Ryan is the first to reach, but the iron door's switch is locked, needing a weapon to open. Call, without hesitation, hands him a pistol, but Dr. Ryan turns the gun on her, shooting her in the abdomen. Knowing they'd kill him eventually, he seizes this chance to escape the mercenaries. Call falls into the water, and Dr. Ryan escapes through the door. The situation worsens for the remaining group, blocked by the sealed exit with the alien closing in. Fortunately, a lucky shot from the man with the scar kills the alien, though its claw remains clutched to a teammate's foot. To avoid dragging the group down, he jumps into the water with the dead alien. Before they can recover, the door's alarm sounds, indicating someone is trying to open it. They arm themselves, but to their surprise, it's Call who opens the door. They realize she's not human but a second-generation synthetic made by robots, previously hacking into United military systems and uncovering many military secrets, including about Ripley and the alien. Designed to protect humans, she initially entered Ripley's cell to kill her, preventing the alien's birth. Despite the challenges, they're a step closer to their goal. However, they soon face a new problem. The ship will reach Earth in just over an hour, and if it lands, the aliens will be unstoppable. Since Call can hack the mainframe, why not enter the ship's main system and blow up the mothership after their departure? It's a good plan, and Call takes control of the entire ship through the system. However, things don't go as smoothly as anticipated. The ship's energy system is damaged, making it impossible to destroy it, so she reroutes the destination to an uninhabited area on Earth and accelerates, intending to crash the ship there. But first, they must start the Betty. At this point, Call discovers Dr. Ryan is already heading to the Betty, planning to escape with it. She won't let his plan succeed, so she uses the mainframe to block all his exits and even directs an alien to his floor, avenging his earlier betrayal. Originally, they had over an hour before reaching Earth, but with the ship's acceleration, they now have only 40 minutes to escape. They rush to the Betty, but Ripley stops halfway, feeling the alien queen directly below her. Strictly speaking, Ripley has given birth to the alien queen, sharing a strong psychic connection. As she responds to the queen, the floor opens, and Ripley is submerged in the alien nest. The group, thinking she's doomed, continues on. They board the Betty, preparing to start the engine when suddenly, Ryan, who has not died at the hands of the alien, holds Call hostage. He didn't perish but plans to follow the Betty back to Earth. At that moment, the alien inside the man with glasses bursts out. He charges at Ryan, and despite being shot multiple times, his strength is formidable. As the alien bursts through his body, the group shoots both to death. The scene shifts, and Ripley awakes in a filthy nest, suspended with several survivors in alien tissue. The alien queen no longer needs to lay eggs but has evolved a new reproductive system, viviparity. Soon, a white alien, bearing human-like features due to the queen's human genes, emerges from the queen's womb. Its first act is to sniff the alien queen, then it crushes her skull with a punch. In contrast, it acts docilely when it smells Ripley, seeing her as its mother. Realizing it won't harm her, Ripley quickly escapes the nest. Meanwhile, the mercenaries have started with Betty, and Call, spotting the fleeing Ripley on camera, opens the hatch to let her in. They think they can escape smoothly, but Ripley notices the cargo door hasn't closed, preventing engine startup. Call rushes to check the cargo hold, not expecting the white alien, which has secretly boarded the ship and manually closed the door to avoid detection. This action deceives Ripley, who thinks Call has fixed the malfunction, so they detach from the mothership and head towards Earth. However, the descent isn't smooth. Cabin pressure drops rapidly. The group calls for Call to return to the cockpit, but there's no response. Ripley realizes the problem and heads to the cargo hold, finding the alien as she suspected. While trying to calm it, she thinks of a way to eliminate it. When the alien accidentally cuts her palm, Ripley gets an idea. Her blood is corrosive, so she flings it onto the spaceship's window, creating a hole. The decompression sucks the alien firmly against the hole, and the white alien, still flesh and blood, is quickly crushed and ejected into space. After a turbulent descent, they finally land on Earth, and the mothership crashes in a deserted area. Everything seems to end well, but Ripley and Call aren't happy, for Earth has become a wasteland. What awaits them, hope or despair, is unknown.